Okay, the purpose of this tutorial is just to give you a general understanding of what the canvas is and how to use it. The canvas is where all the calculations carried out as part of your assessment take place. So with that in mind, I'm going to build up a couple of example calculations from a condensing unit to two external receivers. At this stage I've already put the noise sources into the project and I've also created two external receivers that we're going to carry out our calculations to. There are separate tutorials on how to create both of those things. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is create a new calculation sheet. I'm going to call it Cond01. So that gives us this canvas here to work with where we can now carry out our calculations. Okay, I'm also going to change to my first custom view because I find it easy to work in that way, so I've just pressed F6 to do that. There's a separate tutorial on building up your custom views as well. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is bring a noise source onto the canvas. So I'm just going to start typing in noise into the search bar there, which will filter by anything with the characters in that I've typed in. So there we can see a noise source, so I'll bring that onto the canvas. I'm also going to select the condensing unit there that we want to carry out our calculations from. Okay, so I've got that noise source there now. Okay, so the noise source that I've got is contains octave band sound power levels, so I'm going to bring in a radiation loss correction so that I can convert from sound power to sound pressure. So there's my radiation loss correction, so I'm just going to plug that in. I'm also going to change it to hemispherical radiation. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is take account of some distance, so let's bring in a distance loss correction. That's point source distance loss there. So I'll say it's 12 meters away, the assessment position. Okay, we also need, let's say we've got some screening as well, so I'll bring in a screening correction. So let's just say that's got a path difference of 0.1 meter, for example. I also want to take account of a facade reflection, so I'm just going to plug that in. Let's give that 3 dB correction. Okay, and the last thing now we need is an external assessment location. So we'll bring on our external receiver, plug that in, and we'll say that that's AP1. Okay, so now if we go to our external receivers, we'll see there that AP1 that we've just done the calculations to has got a certain level of noise which we've just calculated, so we can see that by clicking on that noise source. Okay, now I'm going to carry out the same set of calculations to assessment position 2. I need pretty much all the same corrections there, so I'm just going to select all of those and just copy and paste those. Plug those in. Let's say the distance to this one is only 8 meters away and that there's slightly more path difference, so let's say, I don't know, 0.2 meters, something like that. And let's change this to AP2. So there we go, we've now got the calculation from condensing unit 1 to assessment position 1 and to assessment position 2. You can see the overall noise levels to both of those receivers in the external receivers window. We can also bring in some components if we want to have a look at the noise levels at various locations. So this is an octave band read component, so I can plug that in there if I want to see what the noise levels are at that point. Or I can plug it in here if I want to see what the noise levels are at this point. We could also bring on a graph if we wanted to, so if I bring on a bar graph, plug that in, we can see what the noise levels are there in graphical form. All of the graphics on the canvas are built using vector graphics, so you can zoom into your heart's content and it will still say sharp. Let's just get rid of those there because we don't really need those at the moment. And we can also look at this in a spreadsheet view by pressing F2. So we can see now we've got our starting noise levels here from condensing unit 1 to AP1. We've got our radiation loss, distance loss, screening loss, reflection, and overall levels at AP1. We can also, if we want to, print those calculation sheets off by going to the print manager. I've got a calculation sheet template there which I'm going to use. I'm going to call it CS for the calculation sheet, and I'm also going to deselect all of the items except for the condensing unit ones that we've just created the calculations for. So now if we preview those, we'll be able to see that those calculation sheets have been printed out, and we can save those and attach those into our report if we want to. Okay, that's pretty much it for this tutorial. There are other tutorials about how things work on the canvas if you want to find out about the different types of components and containers that you can use. And also there are other tutorials on the website which you can check out if you want to know how any of the things like building up noise sources have been carried out.